Touching moment revealed. Shy waitress surprises deaf customer with sign language. CEO's incredible encounter sparks life-changing opportunity. Maria wiped down the counter, her gaze flickering to the door, where the bell dinged, announcing another customer. The cozy corner diner was aglow with familiar faces, but Jake wasn't amongst them. He entered, a stark outsider whose aura felt charged with awkwardness. Whispers swept through the diner. Most had already whispered that he was deaf, their curiosity echoing louder than the clattering plates. The heat rose in Maria's chest. Here, in a town where everybody knew each other, she held the weight of her family's well-being, supporting her mother and younger siblings. Her income depended on this job. Stability was precious, yet her heart ached for more. Staring down at her notepad, she hesitated. Should she engage with him despite her shyness? The thought of signing, of stepping beyond her comfort zone, sent waves of both fear and longing through her. She recalled the lessons, the hopes of becoming someone who championed communication, someone who could bridge divides. But what if she faltered? What if she made a fool of herself? She took a breath, feeling the pressure building. A fleeting glance of vulnerability crossed Jake's face when he caught her staring. Everything inside her surged with something akin to urgency. This was more than just an ordinary transaction. It felt deeply personal. Could she be the one to cut through the silence? Okay, she whispered to herself, rolling her shoulders back as the diner buzzed with chatter and laughter. She stepped forward, ready to sign, to reach into a realm she had practiced but never ventured. Her heart raced as she signed his order. Burger, fries, drink. When their eyes met, a spark ignited. It was brief but electric. His surprise melted into gratitude. They both blinked away tears, unfiltered emotions radiating in that moment. She felt weight lift, but another hung heavily, a mix of exhilaration and dread coursing through her veins. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with Meech. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The warmth of their connection lingered, but it was swallowed by the reality of her life. The diner's regulars buzzed with excitement about her act of kindness, but Maria felt the shadows encroaching. What if they expected too much from her now? Her single mother worked grueling hours. The support she provided felt as heavy as the sympathy veering ever closer.
And then, there was the unexpected arrival of the diner's CEO on a visit from headquarters, witnessing everything. He watched, eyes skeptical yet intrigued. The offer followed swiftly, a summer internship that would promise a better future. Yet every thought of taking that leap was bound by guilt. Could she abandon her family to chase a dream? She was worn down by obligations, torn between hope for herself and the responsibility weighing heavier than the freshly stacked plates she served daily. With Jake being the CDO's brother, the lines blurred even more. She had touched something profound, yet the interruptions of her life crashed down like the clatter of trays falling. As she stood, cradled in the tempest of decisions, her thoughts spiraled. Ambition felt like a distant star against the night sky. She felt confronted by choices that seemed impossible. Would she bet on herself or remain the steady hand for those she loved? Every option felt like an anvil, anchoring her thoughts while the diner hummed, the world around her carrying on blissfully unaware of her storm. With her family's future and her own at stake, Maria braced for the choice that loomed like an unwritten fate. Would she seize the opportunity or remain shackled by loyalty, tearing at her insides? In that moment, she knew she had to decide how her story would unfold, yet the path remained cloaked in uncertainty. Maria moved through the rest of her shift as if she were on autopilot, the promising offer shimmering in her mind like a mirage. With each cup of coffee she poured and every plate she cleared, her stomach knotted tighter. The blur of smiles and chatter felt surreal, their sounds muffled by the constant drumming of her heart. It was hard to focus on anything other than the insistent chant of what-ifs echoing in her thoughts. As she leaned against the counter during a slow moment, she replayed her encounter with Jake, the way his eyes lit up, the gratitude that crossed his features. That fleeting connection was a stark contrast to the weight of her expectation bearing down on her. What if she could facilitate more moments like that? What if she could break stereotypes, help others bridge the gaps in understanding? But at the same time, what if she faltered again? What if she let her family down? With every passing minute, her resolve shattered further, swayed by the knowledge of her obligations. She tried to imagine her single mother exhausted after long hours, coming home to a cold dinner and faded dreams. The burden of those unfulfilled expectations wrapped around her like a shroud. Who was she to chase ambition when her family needed her most? It felt impossible to stand at the precipice of possibility, with everything else weighing so heavily on her shoulders. Yet, a small voice insisted she couldn't ignore the opportunity presented by the CEO. This wasn't just a passing chance, it was an open door to something transformative.
The thought of working in a dynamic environment, of learning, of actually using her signing skills, thrilled her. It was a professional leap that could redefine her entire life. But could she really justify the leap when her family might slip further into hardship without her steadying presence? The clock ticked on, the pressure mutating from simple anxiety into a gnawing dread. Each time she glanced out the window and saw Jake, her heart felt lighter, yet heavier in equal measure. He was a stranger, yes, but in his silence, he reflected back all the voices inside her that begged for acknowledgement. He represented her fears as much as her hopes. What if he could be part of her journey, an ally in navigating the complicated world that lay ahead? Did she dare discuss her possibilities with him, or would that only deepen her turmoil? Any step into that territory felt like crossing an invisible line. Yet the fear of stagnation ignited in her. Would she wake up one day only to find that she had surrendered her dreams for the certainty of routine? Just after the diner closed, Maria found herself sitting in her car, hands gripping the steering wheel as 1,000 indecisions crowded her mind. The glow of the overhead light flickered off the surface of her notepad, filled with sketches and notes about sign language, communication techniques, and the ways she wished to impact the world. Could she turn in her resignation and leap into the unknown? Taking a deep breath, she resolved that a conversation was necessary. Maria needed to be clear on her direction, and perhaps Jake's perspective would help chart the course. The moment she stepped into the diner the next day, she approached the CEO directly, steadying her breath as she searched for the words that would lead her on this new path. He was engaged in conversation, but looked up as she approached, an inviting smile on his face. "Excuse me, can we talk for a moment?" she began, her voice trembling yet determined. But as she spoke, she caught Jake's eye from across the room, where he was seated, waiting. The unspoken invitation in his gaze felt like both encouragement and a challenge, squeezing her resolve tighter. The uncertainty surged again, and she remembered all the dreams she'd tucked away. Could this be the beginning of both their journeys? The realization sent a jolt through her body. What knowledge of herself lay hidden, waiting to emerge amidst the turmoil? With Jake watching, and the weight of transformation pressing on her, Maria steeled herself to face what lay beneath her own expectations. Would she trust the voice inside, steering her towards the potential of something greater? The pivotal moment beckoned, but with it, a crucial decision loomed. Would she take this leap into the unknown, or shrink back into the comforts of familiar uncertainty? As the conversation began, it cleared. She could lose herself the deeper she ventured into these choices.
Or perhaps it was only through this venture that she could ultimately find who she was meant to be. Maria took a deep breath, the air thick with possibilities, as she locked eyes with the CEO. His warm smile was a stark contrast to the whirlwind in her chest, but it urged her to continue. "Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and community engagement." His interest piqued. He leaned forward, his expression shifting to one of support. "Of course, Maria. I was impressed by your initiative and enthusiasm. What goals do you have for your future in our organization?" Her mind raced. This was it. She could either reveal her aspirations or retreat into the box where self-doubt suffocated her dreams. "I've been working in service for years, but I've always felt there was more I could offer, especially to marginalized communities. I want to make a difference through effective communication. Your company seems to share that vision." He nodded, listening intently, which steeled her resolve. "I believe in the importance of inclusive practices, and I want to ensure our outreach includes individuals from diverse backgrounds. I think I could contribute to that, enhancing our communication strategies." The CEO's eyes twinkled with encouragement, but another glimmer caught her attention. Jake. He was watching, his gaze unwavering, curiosity etched across his features. Would he understand the weight of her words? Did he see beyond her hesitant nature to the potential poised to flourish? Overwhelmed by her emotions, Maria felt the urge to collapse, to retreat into her fears. Instead, she took another deep breath and turned back to the CEO. "I want to create workshops, events where we can teach sign language and bring awareness to communication barriers. It's important for everyone to feel connected and understood." "Very insightful," he replied, nodding thoughtfully. "We could definitely use someone who understands these dynamics. In fact, perhaps you could help develop a plan to present to our outreach team." His words were like a lifeline. She was being invited into a world where her voice mattered. But another part of her realized that this dream came with newfound burdens. What if it wasn't enough? What if she lost herself? "Thank you," she replied, her heart pounding at the prospect of the upcoming challenge. "If given the chance, I would take this role seriously. It would mean everything to me." The CEO smiled, clearly impressed with her passion. "Let's make it happen, Maria. But tell me, what are your biggest concerns? What would hold you back?" The question hung in the air, and Maria could feel the weight of her responsibilities creeping back in.
I worry about balancing my obligations with home, she admitted, her voice wavering slightly.
My mom depends on me, and I don't want to let her down. You should never sacrifice your dreams for duty alone. It's important to communicate your goals to her as well. You can inspire her, he suggested gently. In turn, it could help you both grow. The reality of that struck her. This wasn't just about her. Every endeavor she took could ripple outward, influencing her family and their perspectives. Moreover, she thought, could it also inspire Jake? As the discussion progressed, Maria realized that her fears were tightly intertwined with her sense of responsibility, but that didn't mean she had to let them dictate her choices. She had to confront them, acknowledge her desire to step away from the familiar. After finalizing some details, she stepped away from the table, her mind racing with plans and possibilities. She caught Jake's gaze once more. There was a challenge in his eyes. Perhaps he too was at a crossroads. Would he support her new direction? Could they together navigate their own separate paths? "Hey," he called as she approached, curiosity playing on his lips. "That sounded really interesting. What are you planning?" It hit Maria then, a possibility beyond her wildest expectations. What if Jake could be part of this journey, as a sounding board or even a collaborator? She felt an unfamiliar rush of bravery coursing through her veins. "I think I might be starting a new chapter in my life, one that revolves around creating a bridge between our worlds. I would love if you joined me." His brows raised with intrigue, fueling the flicker of excitement in her chest. "Count me in," Jake replied with a smile. In that moment, doubts began to dissipate, glimmers of optimism taking their place. But as the weight of her next decision loomed, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of the real work. What would it mean to pursue this new path, the one that promised fulfillment, but also required a significant sacrifice? She had opened the door, but beyond it lay challenges she had yet to comprehend. Maria took a step forward, the future ahead uncertain yet intoxicating. With each breath in the dim diner, she felt the threads of her destiny tangling together, defining what she was ultimately willing to fight for. The moment of realization settled in her gut. She had taken the first step. A leap into the unknown had begun. But could she stand firm as the world around her continued to shift? Before she could fully grasp the gravity of her decisions, the door chimed behind her, and a figure entered. An ominous shadow passed over her buoyancy. Was this how her journey would unfold? Anxiety surged, threatening to consume her new resolve. And just like that, Maria's focus shifted once again, as an unforeseen confrontation tugged at the edges of her determination. Would the challenges of the past catch up with her, or would she rise to meet them? The sudden jangle of the door startled Maria, pulling her from her thoughts.
She turned instinctively, her heart racing as she spotted a familiar face. Alex, her childhood friend, strode in, confidence radiating with every step. The tension in her chest resurfaced. The last time they had connected, it hadn't gone well. "Maria," he called, his eyes quickly scanning the small diner before landing on her. "It's been too long." His tone was jovial, but there was a weight to it that cut through the atmosphere. She forced a smile, her previous thrill of possibilities blurring slightly. "Yeah, it has," she managed, her voice betraying a hint of hesitation. Alex had always been a reminder of her past choices, the paths she hadn't taken. As he approached, his body language exuded a casual confidence that she both admired and envied. "Looks like you're doing big things here," he said, nodding toward her. "I heard you talking to the CEO. What's that about?" Realizing Jake was watching the exchange, she felt a moment of vulnerability. "Just discussing some ideas for outreach programs," she said, trying to downplay her aspirations. "You know, using sign language and promoting inclusion." "Sign language? Didn't see that coming." He chuckled, but his tone was laced with skepticism. "Aren't you worried about your bilingual abilities? You could easily get lost in that world." She felt a pang of irritation at his dismissive tone, but it was quickly overlaid by a desire to prove him wrong. "I'm not just doing it for me," she replied, her voice firmer. "There are actual communities that need support in communication. Everyone deserves to feel connected." "Sure, but it's a tough field. You have no idea what you're getting into." The casual nature of his words felt like a challenge. A different fire ignited within her, one that pushed back against his doubt. "Maybe you underestimate me then," she said, her determination sharpening. That single moment shifted her perception. She no longer just wanted to convince herself that this role mattered. She wanted to demonstrate its significance to him, and most importantly, to herself. Maria noticed Jake observing the exchange,
an intensity behind his gaze that rang of understanding rather than judgment. Perhaps he recognized the struggle murmuring beneath her surface. Perhaps he had faced similar doubts. The solidarity made her feel emboldened. "So what else is new?" she asked, diverting the conversation. "Oh, you know me," he shrugged, an easy smile on his lips. "But honestly, Maria, the art world isn't what it once seemed. It can swallow you whole if you're not careful." There it was, his subtle warning, an echo of the inevitable sacrifices they had both faced. It tethered them in a moment of shared uncertainty, but it also reminded her she was not alone. "Right," she replied thoughtfully. "But don't you love what you do still?" "Of course." His expression tightened, the vulnerability settling in.
But chasing dreams can be exhausting when you have to live up to others' expectations. Her heart raced. It felt like a confession, delicate yet heavy. Maria realized that this conversation was more than about their individual paths. It was about the underlying fear that ripped through them both, the fear of never reaching their potential. She had to confront that fear, not only for herself, but for him as well. "Maybe we should take a leap then," Maria proposed suddenly, spurred on by the surge of brave energy that accompanied her newfound aspirations. "We both can navigate these journeys together. Maybe we both need that accountability to push ourselves." Alex blinked, surprised by her invitation. "You really think we could do that?" "I know we can," she affirmed, searching his face for a glimpse of enthusiasm. "Imagine the collabs. We could showcase our shifts in perspective. With your lens and my voice, it could push us both toward heights we need to reach." For the first time that evening, something shifted in his demeanor. The flicker of excitement began to spark. "Okay, I think I'd like that," he said slowly, clearly processing her proposition. As they exchanged ideas, Maria realized she was not only reshaping her fears, but transforming the dynamics of her relationships. She had unearthed a strength she didn't know she possessed. But there was still that nagging sensation coursing through her, the anxiety of whether she could fulfill not only her own expectations, but also those of the loved ones around her. Was she building upon solid ground, or was she embarking on a shaky venture? The distraction of the mundane buzz of the diner faded into the background, replaced by the clarity of her aspirations clashing against doubts. The world expanded around her, while simultaneously closing in on the looming challenges ahead. As the conversation deepened, Maria felt the weight of unspoken shadows trailing her, a reminder that her journey was only beginning. The focus shifted as Alex's cell phone buzzed, breaking the moment. He glanced down, the smile fading slightly as he read the message. "I have to take this," he said, stepping back with urgency. And just like that, Maria was left standing there, her resolve taut against the swell of uncertainty surrounding her. Could she navigate the tumult of these new connections while confronting her escalating fears, both of failure and of herself? Could she balance her reawakening ambitions with the lingering responsibilities that tethered her to the past? The answer hung in the air, like an unfinished canvas. And as Alex stepped away, the weight of the future loomed, whispering unanswered questions into the silence. What would be required of her to truly embody the change she sought? Maria drew in a deep breath, the vibrant atmosphere of the diner contrasting sharply with the turbulent thoughts swirling within her.
The return of Alex, loaded with unspoken sentiments, had ignited something inside her, an unsettling mix of hope and anxiety. With him stepping away, the clatter of plates and the muted conversations around her felt amplified, almost mocking her inner turmoil. Absently, she wiped the counter with a rag, her mind racing. What had she just proposed? The gravity of committing to a collaborative project with Alex hung heavily over her. This was the moment of truth, her chance to leap into the unknown and challenge the comfort zone she had meticulously built. Yet the fear of failure loomed over her like a specter. Taking stock of her ambitions, she felt an unexpected urge to reclaim her space. Her dreams of outreach and sign language education felt more substantial after planting them firmly in the ground with Alex's encouragement. But could that be enough? Would the fear of stepping outside her established routine continue to stifle her ambitions? "Maria," Jake's calm voice cut through her reverie, pulling her back to the diner. "You've got that look on your face again, like you're about to solve a complex equation. What's going on?" She gave a half-smile, appreciating the concern in his eyes. "Just thinking," she murmured, the intimacy of sharing her thoughts feeling both liberating and daunting. "About my ideas, about collaborating with Alex." Yeah, he seemed pumped about it. Jake leaned against the counter, arms crossed, curiosity piqued. "When did you two decide to become partners in crime?" "I don't know," she confessed, the weight of her decision apparent in her voice.
I guess it was an impulsive suggestion, but part of me, one that's hungry for something more, thinks it could push both of us forward. Jake nodded, capturing her uncertainty. Just remember, collaborating isn't just about accountability. It's about leveraging each other's strengths. You need to establish boundaries and communicate well. It's not always smooth sailing. His words resonated deep within her. The flickering uncertainty she had felt earlier pooled into a distinct realization. She had always wanted to be seen, to be heard, to contribute meaningfully. This opportunity with Alex could evolve into more than a partnership. It could redefine her sense of self. What if, she started, but hesitated, the specter of doubt creeping back. What if I can't meet his expectations? What if I fail? Jake placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You've faced challenges before, and each time you've risen to the occasion. Maybe it's about time you let yourself embrace the possibility of growth, not fear it. His confidence ignited her determination. She scrutinized her reflection in the polished surface of the diner's counter, a familiar face staring back, yet one subtly different, brimming with potential. The moment she had chosen to step up and confront Alex's skepticism was defining. She would no longer shrink in the shadows of lost opportunities. It compelled her to strategize.
"I'll draft a proposal," she said, excitement creeping into her tone. "Outline our ideas, our goals, and how best to support the communities we want to uplift. If I hold us accountable, I'll also be reinforcing my own responsibilities." "Sounds like a plan," Jake encouraged, a flicker of admiration in his gaze. Suddenly, a thought struck her with surprising clarity. "I should probably enhance my sign language skills too. I want to ensure I'm effective when we reach out. It's not just about translation, it's truly about connection." "Absolutely," Jake affirmed. "You have a gift for it already, Maria. Just keep pushing yourself." But as her enthusiasm grew, so did the gnawing apprehension that rooted in her mind. Was she ready to fully invest in this venture? Would her abilities stretch to match the demand for both herself and Alex? The pressure to transform her potential into reality felt palpable. Just as her resolve began to solidify, the bell above the diner door jingled once again. Maria turned, almost hoping to see Alex return, energized by the possibility of their collaboration. Instead, it was a new customer, a woman who, at first glance, seemed like she was in a hurry. Yet when their eyes met, a deep and instant connection began to unfurl, igniting Maria's instinct to reach out in compassion. The woman sat down, glancing at the menu. Without thinking, Maria approached and signed a swift greeting. The customer's surprised expression melted into a smile. A wave of fulfillment surged within Maria. In that moment, she recognized the true essence of connection, her deeply rooted desire to bridge gaps, not just through language, but through understanding. Would this realization further strengthen her resolve to push through her fears? As she continued her engagement with the woman, a new sense of clarity began shaping her path forward. Was this the key to unlocking her full potential? As she prepared to return to Alex with an invigorated passion, Maria knew that facing her fears was just the beginning of her transformation. Her mind buzzed with ideas as she glanced over at Jake, who was watching the interaction with appreciation. The room felt charged with possibility. A new chapter of her existence was unfolding, a chapter where she wouldn't back down in the face of uncertainty, but would charge ahead, boldly pursuing her aspirations. What revelations lay waiting for her as she took this leap? Would she awaken her hidden strengths or stumble beneath the pressure? Maria held her breath, ready to move forward, but uncertain of the depth of the world unfolding before her. Maria spent the remainder of her shift caught in a delicate dance between anticipation and self-doubt. Engaging with the customer had rekindled a flame within her, yet the enormity of her decisions loomed like a dark cloud. As she wiped down tables, her mind drifted between thoughts of Alex, her growing ambitions, and the need to remain steadfast.
Would embracing this partnership render her vulnerable, or could it fortify her resolve? The traditional diner noises faded into white noise as she mentally prepared for the proposal she intended to present to Alex. She would need to strike a balance of passion and practicality, clearly outlining not just her vision, but also how their strengths could align. That realization felt like a monumental leap, a commitment to be both seen and assertive without surrendering to the weight of expectations. When her shift finally wrapped up, she stepped outside into the crisp evening air. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, mirroring the chaotic mix of emotions swirling within her. She took a moment to breathe deeply, allowing the fresh air to settle her nerves. Could this environmental shift help transform her mindset? Maria visualized herself stepping into Alex's world, not as an equal or rival, but as a partner. As evening faded into night, she found herself gravitating towards the park nearby. It was a common place for quiet reflection, where she could gather her thoughts without distractions. Sitting on a bench, she opened her notebook, its pages filled with notes, ideas, and sketches of her vision for their project. The sight of her frenzied handwriting modified the chaos in her mind, grounding her with purpose. She tentatively penned down her proposal, a project that would focus on bridging communication gaps through sign language education, alongside outreach programs for the deaf community. With each new line, she felt a flutter of pride creep in, pushing her growing anxiety aside. The words became more than just plans. They represented a slice of her identity and a doorway to fostering understanding. However, one persistent worry gnawed at her. What if she fell short? The fear of disappointing Alex lingered, trudging through her mind like a heavy weight. She took a moment to confront this insecurity head-on. Disappointment could occur, but was it something she simply could not avoid? Failure was not the end, it was a stepping stone. Deciding to approach her thoughts as she would had it been a conversation, Maria began to mimic Jake's wise advice. What about boundaries? She wrestled with her inner voice. Are you prepared to communicate your limits? Are you ready to listen to Alex? You want to advocate for others, yet here you are, shying away from your own needs. With that realization, her heart rate increased. This was more than a professional collaboration. It was also a personal growth opportunity. She would have to voice her thoughts directly, face any apprehensions, and embrace a reality where her voice mattered. Fueled by new determination, she stood up, energized more than ever before. It no longer felt daunting, it felt invigorating. She would meet Alex, and this time she wouldn't just present a proposal, she would participate in a dialogue, weaving her insights into a collaborative narrative.
As she walked home, a series of questions formed in her mind. How could she make this partnership reciprocative? What were her non-negotiables? What tools did she require to fortify her confidence moving forward? Arriving at her apartment, Maria reached for her phone and texted Alex, asking to meet at the diner the following day. The anticipation buzzed through her, yet she was grounded by clarity and purpose. A flicker of excitement spread through her, igniting curiosity about how their discussion would unfold. This was it. She was on the brink of electrifying possibilities. Just before closing her eyes, she pondered, what would Alex's reaction be to her ideas? Would he share her passion or question her assertiveness? With her heart racing, Maria fell asleep, holding on to the threads of her ambitions, hoping she was moving towards a future that had always felt just out of reach. The transformative journey lay ahead, but only if she had the courage to walk that path. Would she dare to step boldly into the light? Maria awoke the next morning with a distinct clarity that felt like sunlight breaking through a fog. Today was the day of her meeting with Alex, and the weight of anticipation transformed into a solid resolve. She moved briskly through her morning routine, each task a step toward what felt like a significant rite of passage. Coffee brewed, she reflected on her proposal, mentally rehearsing the key points she wanted to cover. At the diner, the familiar sounds of clattering dishes and sizzling bacon surrounded her, yet this time, Maria felt energized rather than overwhelmed. She daydreamed about the discussions yet to come, envisioning how she could articulate her ideas about bridging gaps in communication. These thoughts swirled in her mind, vibrant like a canvas coming to life, and she allowed herself a small smile in the mirror as she practiced her posture, straightening her spine to embody confidence. Then Alex walked in, immediately pulling her from her reverie. He exuded an effortless charm, his casual demeanor hiding a focused intensity that once intimidated her, but now only fueled her determination. Maria's calms felt clammy, her stomach a knot of nerves, but she reminded herself of her commitment to speak authentically, as a partner. After exchanging pleasantries, they settled into a booth, an intentional choice, as she favored a more intimate atmosphere for this pivotal conversation. "So, what's on your mind?" Alex prompted, leaning back as he gestured for her to start. For a moment, Maria hesitated, grappling with the inner voice that urged her to temper her enthusiasm. What if Alex thought her ideas were naive? What if he dismissed her passion? Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself. "I want to talk about a project that's really important to me," she began, the words tumbling out with surprising confidence. "It's about creating a program for sign language education and outreach for the deaf community." The moment she spoke those words, she realized the weight of her own conviction. Alex's expression shifted from friendly curiosity to deep consideration. "That's a strong idea, but what's your connection to this?" A critical question that demanded a vulnerable answer. She instinctively felt the pulse of her own emotions rise. "It's personal for me. I've seen how communication barriers can disconnect people. I want to foster understanding, and I believe this project can help." The truth hung in the air, stark and potent. She watched Alex's brow furrow, processing her fervor with an analytical gaze. "You're really passionate about this, but how do we ensure that this is a sustainable initiative?" Maria sensed the shift. This was not just an interrogation, but a genuine collaboration, an invitation to shape their vision together. She opened her notebook, filled with insights and data. Each page burst with ideas about workshops, partnerships, and community goals. As she spoke about tangible steps they could take to implement her vision, her confidence surged further. Yet amid the exhilaration, a subtle crack of doubt still lingered in her mind. Was this enough? Would her passion translate into actionable results? She pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on the conversation unfolding. As Alex leaned in, engaging with her suggestions, she saw curiosity flickering in his eyes. "You know," he remarked, "we need to ensure this reaches the right audience. Are you open to collaborating with others who have experience in this field?" That thrilled her, cementing her belief in the power of shared vision and teamwork. "Absolutely, it's essential," she replied, her voice rising with newfound enthusiasm. "I want to learn, adapt, and grow this initiative in a way that speaks to the community's needs." By the end of their meeting, the conversation had solidified into a tangible partnership, a synergy of shared desires and mutual respect. Yet as Maria left the booth, feeling invincible, another question loomed large. What challenges lay ahead as they proceeded with this plan? Would the initial enthusiasm stand the test of time and obstacles? While excitement coursed through her, a sense of vulnerability accompanied her newfound strength. The next step loomed closer, filled with promise, yet shadowed by uncertainty. Maria stepped out into the daylight, heart pulsing with adrenaline. The journey was thick with potential, but it cried out for her full commitment. She needed to summon every ounce of her tenacity and confront the complexities of their shared ambition. What would unfold next as they delved deeper into forming this vision? Would their collaboration truly flourish or face unforeseen challenges? A question lingered, tantalizing her thoughts as she stepped boldly into the unknown. The following days felt like an intricate dance of ideas and intentions.
Maria found herself enveloped in the excitement of her collaboration with Alex, yet a flickering tension catapulted her forward, challenging her to rise to the occasion. The initial meeting had ignited a fire, but as plans began to take form, questions arose that loomed like storm clouds. Sitting at her kitchen table, the remnants of a hastily consumed breakfast still cluttering her space, Maria spread out pages of notes, research articles, potential partners, and outlines of workshops. The urgency pressed against her, drawing darker shadows of doubt. Was she genuinely equipped to lead this initiative? Her mind raced, each thought a turbulent wave crashing against her resolve. The sound of her phone vibrating against the table pulled her from her spiraling worries. It was a message from Alex, inviting her to a brainstorming session with a few potential collaborators. She hesitated briefly. Mingling with seasoned professionals made her uneasy. What if her ideas, however sound, didn't resonate? What if they pointed out her lack of experience? The very notion made her stomach churn. Taking another deep breath, she responded, "Absolutely, I'd love to join." As they gathered at a small conference room adorned with whiteboards and markers, the air thickened with innovation and expectation. Maria entered, heart pounding in her chest, a mix of excitement and trepidation amplifying every pulse. Each person in the room possessed a wealth of experience. It was a reality check, a reminder of the gap she was navigating. "Let's dive right in," Alex began, effortlessly commanding attention. He introduced Maria, gesturing to her with a casual confidence that made her momentarily buoyed. "She's been spearheading a fantastic idea for sign language education. I think she can shed light on our direction." As the group turned their focus to her, Maria felt the weight of their gazes. The atmosphere felt electric, but also oppressive, and she fought to find her voice amid the chaos. Taking a deep breath, she began. "My goal is to create a basis for communication that feels accessible, not just to the deaf community, but to everyone involved. I envision workshops where we can teach sign language in a way that feels organic to learning and connection." With every word, she realized her passion fueled her confidence. The ideas flowed. Illustrations of community engagement painted vivid images on her lips. Yet just beneath the surface, doubt simmered. Was this enough? Would her enthusiasm be enough to lay a solid foundation? As the discussion evolved, voices chimed in with questions and suggestions. "How do we measure the impact of these workshops?" One woman, a veteran in educational outreach, inquired. Maria's heart raced. This was a pivotal moment, a chance to demonstrate her ability to think critically about sustainability. "I believe we can partner with local schools and assess participation rates and feedback." That will direct our future actions, keeping us adaptable to community needs. As the meeting unfolded, she found herself caught in a delicate balance between assertion and vulnerability. The air crackled with ideas, and small, intense conversations ignited around her. Each suggestion from the seasoned professionals was a double-edged sword. Though they challenged her notions, they also provided new perspectives she never considered. After 2 hours of passionate discussion, the collective energy in the room began to shift from uncertainty to intrigue. She had held her own. Yet, as she walked home, the enormity of what lay ahead gripped her. Could their initial enthusiasm withstand the inevitable obstacles? Would the synergy they formed in that room translate into tangible results? A cold gust of wind whipped through the streets, blowing through her hair as she pulled her coat tighter around her. The uncertainty loomed like shadows in her mind. Would she be seen as a competent leader, or would the challenges expose her vulnerabilities too late? As she reached her door, she paused. There was more at stake than her own self-doubt. Their shared vision needed nurturing, but what if she was not the right person to lead this charge? With a mix of anticipation and dread, Maria realized the next round of challenges awaited her, demanding the full depth of her resilience and ingenuity. Would she rise to meet them, or falter in the face of adversity? With newfound determination, yet gawning anxiety, she stepped over the threshold, ready to confront whatever came next. The true test awaited just around the corner. The next day arrived with a crackle of uncertainty lingering in Maria's mind, a stark contrast to the bright sunshine pouring through her window. Though she had spent countless hours prepared, the gravity of her role weighed heavily on her. Was her vision strong enough? Would she genuinely be able to lead this initiative toward success? As the hours crept by, anticipation turned into urgency. She needed clarity, a guiding light amid her swirling worries. Returning to her kitchen table, she established a new ritual, reviewing her notes and compressing her ideas into digestible components. Each article, each suggestion from the meeting represented progress, yet also highlighted the boundaries of her knowledge. With this newfound focus simmering, Maria began drafting an outline for the upcoming workshops. She envisioned a structure where participants could feel comfortable, both learning and practicing sign language in an environment that mirrored natural interaction. The thought of creating a nurturing space reignited her passion, propelling her forward. Yet nagging doubts resurfaced like unwelcome weeds. Could she ensure that this vulnerability, this rawness of learning, would not intimidate? How could she cultivate a sense of belonging for participants when she herself felt like an imposter?
These questions tore at her resolve, yet she pressed on through the discomfort, knowing that growth often stemmed from the depths of uncertainty. Determined to find balance, she decided to reach out to Alex. A quick message turned into a candid conversation, her thoughts spilling into the digital void. "I'm feeling overwhelmed. I want them to feel safe to learn, but I'm not entirely sure how to create that." His response came swiftly, filled with encouragement. "It's normal to feel this way. You're insightful, and that will guide you. Think about how you learned. Start with that." His words ignited a flicker of understanding. She recalled her own experiences, those awkward initial attempts to sign, the warmth of camaraderie between classmates. Drawing from her experiences to serve as a foundation, it was essential to elevate the workshops into not just a learning space, but a welcoming community. As Maria gathered her thoughts, a sudden revelation hit her. She needed to incorporate personal storytelling into the workshops, framing sign language not just as a skill to learn, but as a bridge to connect people on a deeper level. By sharing her journey, navigating her fears, embracing vulnerability, she could foster a sense of identity and purpose, prompting courage among participants. Bolstered by this new approach, she launched into her next step, establishing a framework for a workshop pilot. To measure impact effectively, she would need to gather not only feedback but also testimonials. This would encapsulate the transformative experiences participants would have, solidifying the value of their learning. But as she scribbled ideas onto her notepad, a flicker of doubt infiltrated her resolve. Was it ethical to inject her personal story into a space that existed for learning? Would it blur the lines, risking appropriateness? The thought forced her to step back, scrutinizing her intentions. With each exploration came fresh resolve. This workshop was not simply about her, it was about shared experiences and growth. Striking a balance between professional and personal narratives could forge a unique connection, generating authenticity that resonated with others.
Days flew by with Maria deep in preparation, refining her outline and engaging with Alex for steady feedback. The anxiety had not dissipated completely, but it transformed into determination, an energy pulling her closer to her goals. However, as she was finalizing her plans, a rival organization announced a similar initiative. The news crashed over her like a tidal wave, siphoning her confidence. They had greater resources, established connections. Her mind raced with the implications. Had her window for success closed before it even opened? The next few days stretched painfully, her vision teetering between brilliance and obscurity. Was her initiative unique enough to stand apart? Would the community even acknowledge her efforts in the wake of a larger contender?
The clock ticked relentlessly, each second a reminder of the looming deadline. As her workshop launch drew closer, Maria realized that she stood at a pivotal juncture, not only testing her resolve, but her innate ability to innovate amid adversity. Standing before her kitchen table, she pondered her next move. Would that competition fuel her creativity or stifle her ambition? The stakes were higher than ever. She could either surrender to fear or rise boldly to confront the challenge ahead. In that moment of reflection, she decided she would embrace the pressures, turning each obstacle into an opportunity for growth. The path ahead promised a confrontation, one that would define her journey and test her limits. As Maria closed her notepad, clarity surged within her. She knew the time had come to face the competition head-on and establish her voice. But what if the very process of rising to this challenge unlocked secrets about her own capabilities she had yet to discover? In the days that followed, Maria found herself standing on the precipice of transformation, her ambition intertwining with doubt as the countdown to the workshop launch approached. The news of her rival organization's initiative echoed like a relentless drumming in her ears. Yet amid the turmoil, a flicker of defiance ignited within her. This was no longer just about her. It was about creating a space where voices could connect and thrive. With unwavering resolve, she set to work crafting a carefully coordinated plan. Drawing from her experiences, she began to weave personal storytelling into her workshops, creating a narrative that transcends mere instruction. Her journey became the thread that bound participants together, establishing a foundation rooted in shared experiences. The realization that vulnerability could foster connection became the bedrock of her approach. As Maria prepared for the workshop, the camaraderie she had fostered with Alex blossomed further. They met regularly, brainstorming ideas, redefining roles, and aligning their vision. In each discussion, Maria's confidence grew. She was no longer timid. She was a force, eager to prove her worth. Each potential challenge transformed into an opportunity to innovate, adapt, and inspire. The day of the workshop dawned bright and clear. Maria arrived early at the community center, her heart racing with anticipation and anxiety. She meticulously set up the room, arranging chairs in a welcoming circle. Her vision for inclusivity began to take shape before her eyes. Each element she had painstakingly planned would culminate in this defining moment, a reality she had fought tirelessly to build. As Maria began to fill in, she noted their nervous smiles and whispered words. Maria caught sight of Jake among them, a supportive presence grounding her in the midst of uncertainty. She locked eyes with him momentarily, and a surge of confidence washed over her.
Here, she was not merely presenting a workshop, she was creating a revolution in communication. With the clock striking the hour, she took a deep breath, stepping into the center of the room. "Welcome, everyone," Maria began, her voice steady yet inviting. She introduced herself, sharing the essence of what brought them all together. Each story she shared, each anecdote that slipped past her lips, served to break down the barriers of apprehension. The response was immediate and electric. Participants began to engage, laughing together, exchanging stories, and embracing challenges. Maria guided them through exercises, blending sign language with emotional connection. As the walls of hesitation crumbled, the room awash with understanding, she felt the thrill of triumph. Hours later, as the workshop wrapped up, Maria stood back and surveyed her success. Faces lit up with newfound insight and camaraderie. They had shared laughter, tears, and transformed uncertainty into inspiration. At that moment, Maria knew she had accomplished what she set out to do. She had ignited a spark of connection. But the highest point came during the feedback session. One participant shared, "I never felt this welcomed anywhere. Thank you for making this space ours." The heartfelt affirmation resonated within her, proving that her vision had materialized into something palpable and profound. Later, with lingering adrenaline coursing through her veins, Maria met with Alex. "You were incredible, really," he stated, genuine pride shining in his eyes. "I didn't doubt your ability for a second, but seeing it happen was something else entirely." "I couldn't have done this without your support," Maria replied, her heart swelling with gratitude. "We make a solid team." In the weeks that followed, the workshops flourished, participant numbers surged, and glowing testimonials poured in. She utilized the critiques consciously, focusing on areas for growth and refinement. Maria epitomized resilience. Each challenge simplified, another bridge built. Then came the news. Her initiative was recognized by local media, bringing attention not only to her workshops, but to the stories of those within the deaf community. The support snowballed, attracting local businesses eager to partner with her. Change was unfolding, and it was exhilarating. As Maria stood on stage to accept an award for her efforts in community outreach, she felt the gravity of her journey. All her fears had transformed into a catalyst for growth, illuminating a future filled with possibilities. She had conquered barriers, both internal and external. The applause washed over her as she delivered a heartfelt speech emphasizing the importance of connection. She looked out and saw Jake among the crowd, his face beaming with pride. The moment crystallized in time, a defining achievement celebrated not just for what she had accomplished, but for who she had become.
Maria had proven herself, not only to her community, but to the world. Her fears no longer dictated her path. She had emerged as a leader, a voice for change, one willing to embrace vulnerability as a strength. She had transformed from a shy waitress to an empowered advocate, lighting the way for others to follow. This was her moment, a reflection of every struggle and every triumph interwoven into the renewed tapestry of her life. In the space of those moments, she recognized that fulfillment existed not in stifling dreams for the sake of duty, but in daring to pursue them boldly, leading with authenticity and igniting connection in every step she took. Now more than ever, Maria embraced her new reality. Each challenge would continue to mold her, guiding her toward even greater heights. With renewed purpose, she stepped back into the world, ready to write the next chapter of her story, for her community and for herself. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now, show your support, and don't wait even one more second to share. Celebrate the journey of personal overcoming stories with us.